Hello, fellow travelers. Thank you for joining along with me on this journey with a vertical farming researcher, aka me, William Gleason. So, for this episode, I will be discussing literature review and methodologies. So, last week we turned in our first drafts for our literature reviews, and I would say it actually went over quite well, and I was very satisfied with how my literature review went. I have it right here pulled up along with me. So yeah, obviously I made sure that I kept everything in line with the APA format to first off standoff, which was I just copied and pasted my format, like my heading, and then I transferred it over and then made it a literature review version. I'm not sure if like the camera will flip it again and make it like backwards reading or whatever, so I'm probably just gonna not show it as so much. I'll give like a little brief overview. You see I have the research question at top. I changed it like 3 times. I have the global issues, which is my first section, urbanization, which is my second section, economy and feasibility, and then lastly the gap identification. So I would say that I also changed the formatting of my literature review a couple of times. So I didn't really stick with the original first outline because I realized, wait, this source would actually fit better if it went over here in this section. And then I was like, but wait, then if this section, and I was just a whole puzzle piece making, I had to rearrange, the sets. So I originally had environment instead of global issues, but it turned out, oh wait, but like food security and environment kind of go hand in hand with the sources that I was using. So I decided to do a little more, a better topic which would encompass it, which would be called global issues. I also included economics and feasibility because there was a ton of literature was written about like how feasible can we implement this in today's economy and stuff like that. And yeah, that was really good. I also included my urbanization section. I used one source which didn't even directly talk about vertical farming, and that source was actually kind of the basis because I was talking about like some of the trends that were going on, that like with the increased urbanization also comes increased pollution. So like vertical farming may it may counteract, because if you think about it, like, oh, vertical farming, it's lessening the environmental impacts of like agriculture, right? But then as seen, where I also mentioned that agricultural revolutions lead to increased urbanization because you need less people to work on the farms, obviously. But if there's increase in urbanization, there's more carbon emissions there. So there needs to be, there's also needs to be like a way to tackle that so that it doesn't like even out or actually become worse because, humans, if you know what I mean. But anyway, so I was writing my gap identification, and this is the part where I rewrote my research question like 3 times. So I was not satisfied with my original, with like my draft research question. I was like, this is not it. But I was thinking, well, when I write the gap identification, I'll be able to like, think through it a little bit more, get it on paper, because, yes, I have the thoughts up in here, but when you translate it down there, it's a little bit different, if you know what I'm saying. So that's basically what I did, right? And so I was able to talk about how all of this research is written just based around, vertical farming itself. And just like the immediate impacts of that, but they don't really talk about the socioeconomic changes. The only thing that's really mentioned is like food security, and they'd be like, oh, it would help alleviate food security. But like, how does that translate? How does alleviating food security translate into a better living condition and higher income and stuff like that? And also, like, there's no literature whatsoever that discusses what's going to happen to the rural places, right? Because if all the farming is going to if all the agriculture is going to get transferred out of the rural areas and can go into, public skyscrapers and urban areas, what's going to happen to the rural people? Are they going to be forced to move? Are some people, some people are obviously going to resist. How is their living status going to be? How's their quality of life going to be? So, yeah, and that's what I found was really passionate about it, because I'm really into, combining both, like socioeconomic factors with vertical farming. And I think that fit a lot better than my original research question, which I can't even remember anymore. It was something about like the effects on the environment due to the urbanization. It was really weird, lengthy, complicated, not a big fan. But anyways, the new research question is, What will the socioeconomic consequences be in response to the widespread implementation of vertical farming? So I definitely feel like this research question does align a lot more with what I want to pursue and what I want to research a little bit more, which then leads me to question, how am I going to research this, right? You know, like, how am I going to be able to measure this? So that's what basically we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks, is like the methodology in that. And we've had like little activities here and there to, get an idea of what we want to do. And I've been really struggling. I've been thinking, oh shoot, like I can't do the basic research survey because most kids don't even know about vertical farming. I mean, it's a relatively new technology. I mean, even though it was first conceptualized in like the 1900s, but like it's not well known. I could usually go to a person on the street and ask them what vertical farming is, and they'd be like, I've never heard of that. So I can't do like a survey whatsoever, and that's a little disappointing because I just remember like surveys were kind of fun. Like in seminar when we did the surveys to help the research kids, like that was fun. But I can't do that this year, so I have to look for other alternatives also. So I was thinking about a couple things. So I was thinking about, like analyzing metropolitan areas which have already incorporated vertical farming, so that would have to deal with like a lot more East Asian countries. But also some in the US, like New York has had some where they just stopped using, like in like some eras in the boroughs of like Brooklyn and stuff are transitioning to vertical farming, like, or just like immediate, not just vertical farming, but also other types. But I just want to see, like, where was the original food source, and I want to see the demographics in that little area. So I want to measure that, and I also want to interview like a lot of vertical farming companies, and I want to see, their input on what that would happen, which means I would have to get like a lot of like consensual paper signs or something along that. We mentioned it in like the ethicalities and stuff like that. So I was really trying to put a name to what I'm doing, but I'm realizing that I'm working with both qualitative and quantitative analysis. So if you know where I'm going with that, is that I'm basically shooting for like a mixed method approach, which I mean, I think even the naming could be subject to change because it's just so early in the process. And I just really want to, get in action. I'm really excited about that because this is the part. This is the big R research. This isn't the little R research anymore. This isn't seminar. This is AP research, y'all. I don't know why I said it like that, but, I mean, if you're in AP research, you get it. Sorry, there's, like, golfers out there. Anyways, so what else? Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about primary and secondary research, and I was so glad to find out that like not everything has to be primary research, if you know what I mean, but like you can have secondary research involved in it. But basically, like, I get what they were trying to say. It's very complicated to explain it, but like I need to make my own original research off of the secondary research because, for example, like I'm going to be taking, demographics from different municipalities. So, I mean, technically, the demographics, that's someone else's primary research, but then I'm, like, analyzing that, and then I'm combining it with the implementation of vertical farming, and then that would be, like, my original research is what I'm kind of understanding, along with the interviews and stuff like that. So that will definitely be interesting. I think a big challenge to it is that I'm trying to measure something that isn't necessarily widespread, right? So what my research is talking about is, that's the problem that I have is that like vertical farming, it's not like a really big thing. I mean, it is in Singapore. I know Singapore is definitely doing that, but like the time zone difference. I mean, how am I supposed to interview these people? And language barriers and stuff. But I bet actually they probably do speak English. Well, I mean, it is a global language, but if they don't, hopefully they speak Spanish. But anyways, But yeah, that's the kind of the scary thing is that like, oh, I'm trying to analyze the effects of something that hasn't really particularly happened, So it's more of like almost a prediction. And I guess I'm a predictor based on current trends. And I'm also going to use like agricultural revolutions of the past, like the Green Revolution, especially the Green Revolution, which was like, like mid 20th century, so that will be easily able to identify, and then I can use that as more as a basis, so it's not just like this very fragile, volatile research project. But yeah, so those are like kind of my current thoughts on the methodologies and stuff like that. And yeah, that pretty much sums it up for today's episode. So just keep in mind that, you got to keep trying. You got to give a lot of effort into this because or else you won't be willing to succeed. Thank y'all.